But
Right.
A, absolution, okay? B is a worker letter to be in the moment. And then C is the entry letter, okay? Allows things to enter. Then you got D, that's a door, you're entering a door. That's why it's shaped like that. Okay, it closes off the C because you're entering into something. It's like a closet. It stops there, okay? And then you got E, which is the like that electrical letter, which leads to God. It's a part of the L. And then you got F, which is that wrenching letter. And then you got G, which is like an eating letter. It's allowing someone to eat. It's got a jaw on there. Okay, that's why it's shaped like that. Then you got H is like a throne. It's very solid. It looks more like a seat in the lowercase, but it's an H. It's like two legs and bracing it, so it's a very strong letter. Okay, that's why it's in the word honor. Okay, H, and then you have I, which is first person. Okay, I, you're talking about yourself. I. It also has I. It sounds like the letter I, so you can see with the I. Okay. So that's kind of the pattern. So you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J is like a hook letter because you use that when you have a hook. So when I see that, you have to watch what goes on with a letter like that because there's something going on in there that's kind of scooping up or hooking something. And then you have K, which is like that knowledge letter. It's there for a reason. It's got I, and then it leans a T into it. As you can see that the T leads in, and T is title. Okay, so it's like I title, but that's in order to have knowledge, you'd have to know who you are, and that's title. And then you have L, which is God. M, oh my goodness, there's definitely two legs standing, and it's got the V in there. This allows everything to come in. So it's like a man looking up to God. It's a very interesting letter. N is like a search letter. I can't get into that. It's like because it's so wacky the way it looks. When I broke it down, I said every time I see that, I even find people with this in their name that if they have a name like that would end up with a number of N's in it, I find them as very, very always searching, but they don't seem to come to a reality on what they're finding out. And I've run into people based on just taking the letters in their name. As I said, I could do your name right now and tell you because Laura has got God in it right off the top. Then A is absolution, so you're right in there. You're absolutely on the right path because you're under God, under absolution. Then you got U, which is you, right? That's a U. It's not a W. Worry about W's because you don't want to be a double U. You want to be a single U, okay? Then you got R, which is a head letter. It actually means something very heading somewhere, someone who's strong. And then you got A again. You end up with absolution at the end. So everybody's name has a meaning.
Interesting.
Okay? So that's God, absolute, you, head, absolution. I don't think anybody's going to stop you, Laura.
Well, I'm glad that I was given this name because I was going to be called Deanna, which would have had two N's in it.
And that happens like with the name Anna. That was the one I was looking for. I had absolute and then search, and then absolute. But it's weird that in the middle of their name, they're dealing with a search. So I found everybody that I ran into the name Anna, they were super researchers, but they couldn't come to a conclusion on anything because I got them in the middle of the journey, not at the end. At the end, they get absolution, but boy, that journey in between is difficult. And I thought, is this by chance? And I said, well, everything's in a name. It is in a name. So there is like names were really, really important when you named a child. That was a very spiritual event to name a child. And you named a child in the Hebrew covenant on the 8th day. So it's an 8th day, and 8 is infinity. So that's a forever name you have. That's why I always worry about people when they're afraid of their first name they were given by their parents, because there's a reason for that name. And to hide behind it and change the name and put another name there, I understand that for ghostwriting and things like that. I understand why people do that. But in reality, when you're really standing in truth, don't be worried about that first name that you were given because it has the meaning. It's the fact. It is the truth. And no one can touch that. And it does not belong to the state. It's private. It's off. It's like God does not deal with the public state. Okay, the public state is a separate entity that's there based on a system that deals with debt and torture and fees and fines. It has nothing to do with absolution. So our names have a really big importance there. Okay, even in we were talking about John, even that, like the name John, he's on there, but you see there's something there. He's scooping up. Balance comes next. It's complete circle, and then H is a throne of God. Okay, and then he ends in the search. Now it's funny that John wrote the book of Revelation, so he was in a search for the final end of the revelation, the disclosure to the knowledge of God. So he ends up with an N in the last part of his name in the search. So it means he's continuing to search. He'll never stop searching. Hopefully, John, that makes sense to you. So.
Excellent.
Now that's off the top. That's what I do. That's when I'm going into this. That's really what it is. This is coming from my heart, from what I've researched and how the letters look and why they lead to where they are and how many times I'll see the same pattern using the same letter in so many different sources, whether it's a law dictionary to a dictionary, just to where it shows up in the Bible. And it's just, it's got a meaning. So when I find those patterns, that's why I'm able to see this for what it is. Now, I could be off, but more than not, it seems to always go down a proper direction. So it's the beginning of knowledge. I mean, it's infinite. There's nothing in language that's ever going to end. You're always going to be in knowledge. Yeah. You're always going to be in search of that. Unlike the world of the legal that says, I'll put a couple degrees beside you, a couple letters, and I'm going to say that's it. And then you never ever search anymore for knowledge. So we never want to go to that level where we think that we know it all, because that's when we come to a dead end and then we're not taking in.
Well, we've got to find the balance of power. And so it's very befitting John Power would be one who is on the call for the whole of it. And,
there you go.
And just to your board and this extra teaching piece that you've gifted us with now, do you want to finish the O and onwards in the alphabet as well? Because Laura and John,
we could, yeah, and then O is the balance letter O. Okay, so we're dealing with, we've got it going here. We're just going nice and slow because we saw what they are: D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, then P. Now it's an interesting letter because you've got a D at the top of it. It's kind of weird. It's almost like a head that occurs on that letter. So that's why it's in parent, right? Because the parent is the head. Okay, so it's probably there for a reason in parent. And then OP, then you have Q. Now Q is an interesting letter because it breaks the circle. So I always concern when I see a Q, because question, there's a good reason, because you're breaking something when you're questioning. So you're not in an absolute control circle, right? Okay, so that means there's something going on when you're at a question mark. If you are, then you got R is a head letter, and then S is half infinity, because if you took it and went this way, it's also a snake letter. That's what actually it's described on. When you go into some of the earlier dictionaries, when they go to an S, they'll actually say it's a snake. So it's kind of like you're not quite there yet, okay? It's in between, it's halfway, okay? Then you got ST, that's title. Then U, which is U. It also brings in, so it's a U. It also spells U. It's in YOU, right? Then you got V, which is like that vowel letter that's in vowels. That's why we write the word vowel with a V to start off the word. So it's got a vowel in it, okay? And then W. Be careful when you get into the W, because you may be double U there. There could be two U's going on, duplicity going on, double personality, split personality. So it's UVWX. Okay, well, X marks the spot, so that's usually a blemish letter. Okay, it's an X. X marks a blemish. So when we say X marks the spot, that's a problem, because the spot is a blemish, and God's people were to be without spot and blemish. So the lawyers always tell you to put your mark down, make your mark, right? Make your blemish. So,
well, that's why.
And then you have Y, which is, yeah, and there's a Y, and then C is really strange letter. because of the way it's shaped. It's actually like when we say zigzag, you're kind of going two different directions, possibly at the same time. You're zigzagging, okay? So it is a weird letter. I haven't totally got a absolute on that because it's so not used that much. We don't have a lot of letters in, but even if you look at a zebra, it's got these stripe patterns that go through it. And there's probably a reason why they chose the letter Z to be in that name of that animal, okay? So it's not a, it's just, I think it's a little bit of a, if I'm going to use the word confusion kind of letter. I just don't know how to explain it. It's just, to me, that's where it goes. But more than not, most of this, like, they have these feels to it. So that's how I came across it. When I look at a letter, I look at letters, I look at the word love, okay? And that's God right off the top. And God is love, right? And then 0 or O, well, in tennis, isn't 0 no score? That's called love. You're not supposed to have something above somebody else. So no score, no tally stick, no trying to keep a little tally on everybody so you can tally on somebody, tattletale, right? So you got, and then you got V, again, that's that vow letter, and you're vowing to what? The power, which leads to Elohim, which is God, so you're back to God again. There's God is love. Now, you take the word devil, that's a door that leads to the energy vowing that I, first person, am God. Well, then that you're saying that you're greater than the creator that sent you. Well, what did the devil want? He wanted the worship that God was getting, and he coveted that, and then he went and tried to take the first creation and try to get them to follow him. Well, I think he actually succeeded. But that's called the devil, and he once lived with God, right? So you reverse devil and you get lived, because he once lived. Now he's dead, according to the Bible. He's now a dead entity. He's a body corpus. He's a dead body. He may have a spirit flowing in him, but he's not going to live long because he's already on the walk of the dead. He's in darkness. Okay, so God puts him into an abyss at the end. Okay, so into an abyss. He goes into an abyss at the end, according to, he goes into a suspended animation for 1,000 years during the reign of Christ, when Christ brings righteous government to the earth. And then he's let back out for the final test, the same test that he did with Adam and Eve. Everything is in the book. It's telling us. The unfortunate thing is, the legalized, organized religion does not want to teach this, because the fact is that it would wake up their people to not be zombies, just content just to show up on one day out of the week, blow in there, throw a little bit of money onto the contribution to the tribute box to Caesar, and then they walk out and they just continue worshiping Caesar after that, because they don't realize they're worshiping Mammon.
You just said tribute, and that's what in Hunger Games, every district had to offer a tribute, and in human sacrifice, right, each of those were called a tribute.
You can look up the term, the technical definition for a surname is called an agnomination. Nomination is like to nominate, to put into an appointed position. An agnomen or nomen, agnomen is where it came from. Well, agnomination is an attribute. It's called an attribute. So it's always an attribute to the legal one who assigned it. So therefore the Caesars could call in the tribute, the tax, for those that used it. So you were always in the debt under Caesar's system, because it's the last name is attributable to you when you claim it. And because the tribute came from Caesar in the legal fiction, you have to pay that tax, because the tribute was a tax.
Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's is the scene that just keeps coming into my mind. And
yeah, don't give to Caesar what is God. So why are we giving our God-given name to Caesar when he was only supposed to get his Caesar name? Yeah. So we made a mistake, and now we've commingled in there, and now good is with fiction, truth is with evil, truth is with lies, and when those two don't mix, you're just going to be paying for natural versus an unnatural existence.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on right now. So it's got so bad now people are waking up and they go, I think there's something wrong out there. But the world that's surrounding us, unfortunately, is the biggest problem, because it takes a really deep, strong faith to actually make our way through this.
Indeed it does.
So, yeah.
Dan, Chuck is the only other one whose name you haven't shared with us. If you want to.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Yeah, sure.
I got it here.
Okay.
And I have a short synopsis for the letter Z as well, if I can.
Okay.
After we're done here. Or
Sure.
You want to hear it now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I believe N was the search
Yep.
letter. Okay, so you're searching and searching and you get tired, then the N falls over into a Z, and is represented by Z's, you know, in cartoon or whatever.
Yes.
So it has a sleep, and then the next morning it gets back upright out of bed and goes searching again.
Right. Makes sense. So, oh, just a second here.
Thank you for sharing that, Chuck. That was awesome. I love it. A sleepy N.
See, I can only think that way after watching a bunch of Daniel's videos, you see.
Right? I hear you.
So you got a C, you got an entry. So it's allowing what the next letter is to enter into the previous letter. If that's the way I want to look at it, that's what it means, because you don't go to the next letter without letting the other letter enter into how you even enunciate it. So H is like a throne letter, so it's very strong. That's why it's in words like head and honor. It's in those kind of, like, to hear. It's in these. They're very important words. So C, throne, U, C, knowledge.
I like it.
Okay.
My
I
real
love
name's
it.
Carl,
And-
so that's probably another story.
I can do that too.
The connection.
If you go to Charles, okay, that will still have huge meaning, because it's C, throne, absolute, head, God, power, and then you're on the journey, because it's like, because we're halfway right now. No matter what we want to look at it, we're only halfway.
Yeah.
We're only halfway on the journey, because we haven't gone complete. We're not in infinity. Remember, God made man on the 6th day. On the 7th day he rested. The 7th day is coming to an end right now.
Right.
We're in the 7th day.
Yes.
So what would come after the 7th day other than the 8th day?
Oh, completion. Okay.
That's it. And that's it. When we reach that, then we're in infinity, which is we're in the total absolution, because we're back now to the eternity that God, when he made man in his image, he made him eternal like he was. He didn't make him to die. He made him eternal. And I don't think there's a lack of space in the world. When we look at the earth and we look at everything around, we know that if we needed more realm to place population, I don't think we'd ever run out, because it's infinite.
Right, right.
Well, space is,
So
according to C.N.
we've been
Rohan,
taught. Yeah.
according to C.N. Rohan, with the awareness principle of God, and then mother or mater, that being will, and then those two forces meeting in the heart to actually magnify desire for body of manifestation to bring about the festation of desire.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Even when you look at it, because of what's going on, there's when we talk even will. Okay, a will. It has the Father and the Son in there, and it's got I in there, and it is really to an extent we're in kind of something that we've been kind of caught in between the knowledge of good and evil. There's like it's the control of knowing the difference between the two. We know that even in the Genesis account, the tree was placed there. So God did put the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in there, of which, the first pair ate from. So it's a W-I, God, because you've got, Jesus was considered in Hebrew to be the arm of creation for his father. So he had a vested interest in the creation, and that's why he came with the message. So that's why when you have Abraham giving his miraculous only begotten son, at age around 30, he walked up to an altar with Abraham, and he walked up there. Now, he certainly could have overpowered Abraham because Abraham was 100 years old, and Sarah gave birth miraculously because her womb was barren. And there was, he walked up there, and then basically God gave him that miracle, and he said, would he actually give up his only begotten son as a sacrifice to the Creator? And then the angel came in and prevented Abraham's hand from coming down. And it was because of that faith that the bloodline led from Abraham's seed all the way to Christ, who came in. So because Christ came basically as the sacrifice that wouldn't have made sense with Isaac, because Isaac was born in sin. Jesus had no sin. He had no corruptible blood. So therefore he was perfect. So he was the perfect sacrifice. And that's why, unlike lawyers, Christ is a priest, but he's also the sacrifice at the same time. So unlike lawyers who go into court and they say, okay, we're representing you, only to the point when it comes down to the sentencing. And then they say, will the accused please stand up with the name that the lawyer induced you to give him money to represent? And then he backs off and lets you go ahead. You should tell him, go ahead, I paid you. You're the Judas priest. Let's see what happens after you go in. If the coast is clear, I'll see whether I stand.
Right?
That'll shut down the court every time.
And two,
Never have a gun to anybody's head.
and 2 S's in his name because he's a Pisces.
Yes. So there's so much in there. There's so much in these letters, but it's an infinite journey of study and knowledge. And then all we can do is, if we gain something further on it, then we go back and we say, okay, then maybe I wasn't so accurate on that, and I'll correct it, because that's what people with knowledge do.
Yeah, well, even tying in what John just said about the 2 S's and the
Yeah.
Pisces, well, Jesus was said to be the prince of the Piscean age.
Right. So, like I said, we've had, I think we've got ultimate, good study material. We got people that are, I think, on this journey now. They wouldn't be on this if they weren't awake and seeking, truth. And it's light. Unfortunately, the majority of the world is in deep darkness, and they just can't see it. So they don't have you. Not only do you need light from the source of light, but you also need the light of knowledge. And if people are eating darkness all the time, that's what they're doing. So that's why they're eating those bills that come in the mail that are written in black. So they're eating that blackmail all the time because they're being blackmailed because they have so much money in the theft they're doing with a title that's not theirs, that they can be blackmailed all the time by blackmail.
Well,
So that's what they do.
the ink itself is about jurisdiction, because each of the colors are different jurisdictions, and it's all related to the color of law, and then the color of right, with plausible deniability being the way they can say, but I thought I was doing right, even though it felt completely wrong, because I have been trained not to trust myself and instead listen to my indoctrination programming.
That's right. And so that's why you'll find the law dictionaries of the legal are not spiritual. They're just dealing with legal, the law of lawyers, the devil's advocates. So they lack because they be lack. They're always lacking. Okay. So it's black and it's darkness. And so one of the biggest commentary sources on English law is called Blackstone's Law Dictionary. Blackstone's commentaries on the law. And of course, a Blackstone meant that you got the crap into the stack. Okay, even in the masonry, they put a black marble in a bag if they didn't want you in there. That's where blackballing came in from. So you were blackballed. Yeah. But in the Revelation, it said those that overcome this crazy darkness into light, they receive a white stone, not a black stone. So it's interesting that the legal system works with someone so well known in the commentaries on the legal system. They call him Blackstone's commentary. Can you win with a black stone? I don't think so.
No. Well, the game is not set up for the player to win because the house is supposed to always win until
Always win.
you get so that you understand how to actually make the house pay you.
Well, if you're not, yeah, exactly. If you're not gambling and taking from the house always wins. Well, that means you'll win because the house in their system has to provide you the house name because you're surrounded by that house name, but it's not your name. And so as long as your name is inside their house, you will pay rent for being a pay rent authority over that name that's not yours. It's a bad gamble. You'll always lose that hand. Okay.
This one or this one? Because I want both of them.
Well, I'm just going to say that when you pull out in arms, right, it's done usually with the right hand out of the holster, and that's the gun that you pull out. So you're always armed with that surname in the legal. And that legal basically pulls the gun out, takes its shape, basically triggers and discharges this paper tissue of that bullet. The bulletin will work on its own without us being involved. You don't put a peace condition in with an armed or a violent weapon. One's a spiritual. We have spiritual armor, not physical armor, because it's the spirit, not the body. So they're working on the body, thinking you'll act like an animal in violence, in sin, and that your spirit's not gonna be there. So to see this, so that's why they want to merge the two together, and before long they contaminate you with a dead body corporate that's a corruptible thing that's now corrupting your spirit, because your spirit shouldn't be in a dead body. It's very unclean.
Well, all of this is part of how we actually make the word sacred so that we can use the sword of our pen
Right.
to set ourselves free. So thank you for everything that you have shared with us today, Dan. It has been absolutely spectacular. Again.
All right. Okay. We'll talk to you on Tuesday. I'll probably talk to you before that.
Awesome.
Okay. Peace, everybody.
Thanks.
Peace out. Love you guys.
You too. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, John. Ciao for now.